This is Michael Woodward, and this is episode 58 of the Jumblethink podcast.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Jumblethink podcast, a podcast focused on helping you, the listener, reach your big idea and dream and create the world you want to live in. In every episode, we share the stories of dreamers, makers, innovators, and influencers who have chased their big idea and dream and created the world they want to live in. On today's episode, our guest is Dustin Mathews. More about Dustin in a moment. Next week on the podcast, we have two incredible guests. On Monday, we have Gavin Zuklinski. He is the founder of Acuity Scheduling, really cool company doing amazing things to help entrepreneurs and business owners make their scheduling needs easier to do. Next Thursday on the podcast, we have Christy Lindor. She is a management consultant, blogger, author, podcaster, and speaker. She recently wrote a book called The Misi Muse, 100 Selected Practices, Unwritten Rules, and Habits of Great Consultants. She shares more about the Misi principle and how it can help you as a leader create an incredible organization or reach the dream you've always wanted to reach. Make sure you swing on over to our Facebook and Instagram account tomorrow where you can check out One Tip Friday, where we give you one actionable tip to chase your big idea and dream. Now let's jump into the conversation we had with Dustin Mathews. I am super excited about today's guest. His name is Dustin Mathews. I'm going to jump into this conversation in a moment, but first I have a really, really cool announcement I want to share with you. I love podcasting. It's been a really, really fun journey, and we're going to continue this journey with the Jumblethink podcast, bringing amazing guests, letting them share their story, and hopefully inspiring you along your journey. But we wanted to offer some more resources. And one of the ways we can do that is through a new tool called Anchor.fm. It is a tool for micro podcasting. Now, you may be wondering, what is the difference between a micro podcast and a regular podcast? Well, podcasts can take many forms. They can be short, they can be long, they can be interview, they can be topical based, they can be storytelling. Micro podcasts carry over those same elements, but all of them are short bursts. 5 minutes or less. And they can be any form. They could be interview, topic, storytelling. And in ours, they may take all three forms. One of the cool things that Anchor FM is allowing people to do is not only release these short podcasts, but let the audience record their comments and send it back and basically interact in real time. They can call into the episode. They can be interviewed on the episode. It's super, super, super cool. These episodes can then be strung together and create like a little mini series in that one episode. So I have a new station at Anchor FM, super cool, anchor.fm. Download the app. You can interact with it, super cool. The micro podcast I'm going to be doing is going to be sharing some of my ideas and thoughts around the world, and they're all going to stem into the world of ideas, into the world of dreaming and making, and it's going to be a little bit more proactive and less about the interview. It's going to be sharing tips and ideas of how you can apply these ideas to your life, and it's just going to be a lot of fun. So swing on over to Anchor.fm, and make sure you find Michael Woodward on there. I'll also put a link on the Jumblethink website. Check it out. Let me know what you think. It's going to be a fun experiment. Thanks for giving me a few minutes to ramble on about micro podcasting. Now, let's talk about Dustin. Dustin is super cool. His name is Dustin Mathews. He's the co-founder of Speaking Empire. He's written over 8 books. They're all really cool. He's been featured on Roku, Forbes, Entrepreneur Magazine, Fox News, USA Today, Inc. Magazine, so many other powerful places. And he has a new book called the No B.S. Guide to Powerful Presentations, How to Sell Anything with Webinars, Online Media, Speeches, and Seminars. It was co-written with Dan Kennedy, and it's just a lot of fun. So, well, let's jump into this interview with Dustin Mathews. Dustin, thank you so much for taking time to share your story.
Michael, I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Now, I've done tons of research about you, and you have some really major influence. It's pretty cool, but a lot of people aren't going to know a lot about you. Can you tell us a little bit about your origin story, how you got from where you were to where you are today?
Yeah, I read I remember it all started with a book, a really good book. Michael, have you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
Yeah.
Yeah, I read that book and I got so excited, and I started the whole journey for me today. And without it, I wouldn't be here. And so after reading that book, I thought I was going to be the next real estate millionaire. But it was in that journey that I decided that real estate wasn't my thing. It was marketing. And I determined while working at a company, after being inspired to like go and do real estate, I discovered marketing. And I discovered that, wow, it's the words that we say on paper. It's the words we say in a podcast or webinar or from a stage that can really drive people to take an action. And so I was fortunate to realize early on that, if you're trying to raise money or you're trying to, motivate people to buy a product or service, or even just try to create a movement, that you have to be able to communicate. And so for me, marketing has been that passion. So it all started with that book. And along the way, I picked up speaking because it was a new area of growth for me, something I was deathly afraid of. And so marketing and speaking have really been the things that have fueled my growth and the growth of my businesses. And so I want to share that with the world.
Well, I think there's something really cool that you said there. And that's, you took a book and you applied the principles to an area that book isn't specifically geared towards, but you took that and applied it to a different sector and were able to make your own adventure, taking and learning the lessons from one resource and applying it to another.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely right. And that's the funny thing is, like, in our life, in our journey, right, whether you have a business right now or maybe you have an idea for something, you don't necessarily know the perfect path. We have a vision. We want to be perfect. We want to get it right out of the gate. But what I found is you just have to get started. And so even though I thought I was going to be a real estate guy, it wasn't meant to be. And so if I had never started that journey down that road, I would have never discovered that I love marketing. I love speaking and sharing a message. And so I think that's the biggest thing is that, no matter how many books you read or, seminars or things that you come across, you just have to start at some point. And I've been the guy that's been paralyzed by, I need to know a little bit more, or, I'm not fully aware of, what the path looks like. And so the big thing I want to share with others, you just got to get started.
That's so good and so important. I think, a lot of people just get stopped in their tracks and never make the journey of what could be because of the fear of what might not be.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's been time and time again in my own personal journey, in my path, that I have not known something. Sometimes I've chosen to dive in. Sometimes I've been forced, kicking and screaming. And what's funny and unique is that's where the biggest area of growth happens. So, I know I in my life get to a point where I get sick and tired of being on the sidelines, and I just like I want it. Like I want to be there. I want to travel. I want to create something. And so you have to keep in mind, even if you're successful, that you just got to go out there and you got to have that faith in yourself and belief in yourself to go out there and make it happen. And, call upon people that are in your life, read some books along the way, but just get in the game is the big thing.
That's so good. So good. Now tell us a little bit about Speaking Empire. It's one of the businesses that you've been a co-founder of. What is it and what do you do?
Yeah. So I like to say at the end of the day, Speaking Empire, we sell confidence.
Okay.
And not that we sell it, but that's what we provide to folks. And so the way that we empower folks, thought leaders, business owners, and entrepreneurs is we help them design a message that oftentimes they give on a presentation from a stage or even a webinar, or now because Facebook Live is all the rage nowadays.
Yeah.
We put together a presentation with the whole goal of getting people to act. So not motivational, like rah, you can go do it, but hey, here's some really good solid how-to information. And if you want to take the next step, which I strongly urge you, it's go do this, and this. And so we really help anybody, business owners and entrepreneurs, with a message, a product, or a service get off the ground, or for some that are already in business, really refine it and start attracting the right clients.
That's really, really fun. And you've had a co-founder in that business. There are a lot of people that are solopreneurs. They kind of create their own thing. There are some people that create a business and create a team around them. There are other people that get co-founders and they work at it together and then grow the business and add people. How has that journey been for you to have a co-founder in that endeavor through the process of collaborating and working through those processes?
Yeah, it's been It's been awesome. And here's why I say that. I was very fortunate that the guy that is my co-founder, I'm partnered with now, I worked for him. So back at that real estate company, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad and got really excited. And I met him when he was first launching it. And so I said to him, hey, listen, teach me how to do some of this real estate stuff and I'll come work for free. And so I got to know him for about 5 years, really, 5 years. And then he was in the midst of reinventing himself when the real estate market turned and he needed to do something. I was passionate about marketing and kind of drifted from that. And he said, hey, why don't we launch a company together? And so I would say that it's been great because I already knew about him. So it wasn't like it was cold. And so I knew what his strengths and weaknesses were. He's an amazing salesperson. He's an amazing motivator. And so he has allowed me to focus on my passion, which is more of the behind the scenes. It's doing some marketing, embracing the new tech, while he's been, the driver out in front for sales. And so I'm not going to tell you it's all pie in the sky. We disagree, right? Because if we agreed on everything, then one of us would be really irrelevant or useless in the business. So there are challenges for sure to work through, but having a partner has been great. And there are people out there that write books about Jobs and Wozniak, and if you look at others, Gates and his right-hand man, and so if you look at other companies, some of the most powerful, there's usually a 1-2 punch. Not always the case, but usually in the beginning a 1-2 punch, or at some point that. But I don't think it always has to be that way.
Well, you mentioned now a couple times that the space that you kind of take right now is, or then the journey that you've been on is really building a business around marketing. But there are so many different facets to market. There's digital marketing, new media, old media. There's traditional marketing. There are all these different terms that are thrown around. What does marketing look for what you guys do?
Everything.
Okay.
I don't know if I can answer it with one word. Marketing's fun and exciting. And for some people, I know that it's frustrating because even though I'm sort of what a lot of people would say a younger guy in the marketing world, I embrace really old school stuff. So I was brought up learning like copywriting from people that had to write ads, or at least talk about writing ads in newspapers, and talk about their founding fathers that had to write an ad in a newspaper, get someone to clip it out, put it in the mailbox and mail it in. And nowadays we don't have to do that. We just go onto Facebook or we do Apple Pay and we make response. But I go back to the foundation. So I'm very versed in the old school, which I love because there's something tangible. Yeah. There's something physical, like getting a postcard or even Amazon nowadays. You get a package in the mail. For me, I love that. And I love getting stuff. It's like Christmas. And so I'm very much old school, that I love to put ideally stuff in people's hands. But I also know that the future is also heading towards digital. And a lot of people ask me, Michael, they say, well, is direct mail or newspaper, they're going to be dead? And I say, no, there's always going to be a segment of people that really enjoy it, just like there's underground societies for comic books and there's underground, niches for people. And so I think they'll always be relevant, but digital and this new technology is, the way of the future.
I think that's really important because I work in new technology. We do web development, we do app development, and in that, there are so many principles that can be taken. I deal with it all the time where somebody comes in and says, hey, this guy's going to build me a WordPress website. This guy's going to build me this website. What are you going to do? And my answer is simple. I'm going to solve your problems. The framework at the end of the day really doesn't matter, as long as it reinforces your goals. And I think that what you're saying there is really important for people to remember, because there are all of these different streams of marketing and utilizing media in different ways, whether that's a billboard or a direct mailer or anything like that, that understanding the tools that are available to you when somebody is so pigeonholed into this is the way we do it, this is the only way to do it, and then having for you to have those resources there to say, oh, this is the right tool for this project, we can change it up, we can do it different. It's really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. If you understand the foundations of really anything in life, whether it's, good health or, running a business or marketing as we're talking about here, it's the foundations that will take you. The technology will change, the tools will change. But if you understand, this is why I got really fascinated and excited by this, is I determined if I just understand the principles of marketing, of getting people's attention and getting them excited, then I can take that into any media and it will serve you no matter what you do in life.
Well, and it also gives you the freedom to select something that maybe somebody else would have written off because that's old technology or an old mechanism. And yet you are saying, hey, it's still on the table. We have the foundation, we have the knowledge, we have the core. We can go to something that somebody else might not be willing to go to because it's old school and see the results we want because it makes that client, that person stand out.
That's absolutely right.
Now, you've written 8 books, or co-written 8 books. It depends on the book and everything like that. There's some really cool books, New Rules of the Game, How to Get Rich Working Free, which that book I think sounds pretty incredible there. It's a catchy title. The Ultimate Success Secret, ROI, Marketing Secrets. You've written other books. You have a new book that just released in June called the No B.S. Guide. It's powerful presentations, how to sell anything with webinars, online media, speeches, and seminars. How did you get into writing books?
Well, the honest truth is, I still think that I have somewhat of a baby face. Maybe it's disappearing. And when I was first getting started in this world of business, I really had it bad. So imagine me like 12, 13 years ago. If you don't have a picture of me, just imagine a 15 or 16-year-old. And so a person that looked like they were 15 and 16. And so I'm like, wow, no one's going to take me seriously. That was a self-limiting belief I had. And so I said, I need to write a book because I need people to take me seriously. And so at the time, now they're more in vogue, especially in the business community. At the time, people still, gave a lot of credence. Now they give credence to it, but they now know that, a lot of people can crank out a book. And so I just had the self-limiting belief that no one would take me seriously and that I needed to have a book as a business card. And so that's why I started writing originally. And then I determined that leads actually bring in great clients. Someone that will actually take the time to, 1, buy a book, and then also 2, to read through it, speaks volumes about that type of person. And so if they're willing to do that, then they're sort of sold, if you will, before they even come to you. They've done a lot of the legwork. And so the reason why I continually write books and write in general is I'm always looking to help and empower folks. And I find, gosh, if they've read something and they believe in my thoughts and beliefs and show up at my door, then there's no selling. There's just a conversation, and I can help you or not help you. And that's why I continually do it.
Well, first off, every time I see your picture, whether it's on a website that I've been to or even here with the Skype chat, I see your picture there. You remind me a little bit at certain angles of Daniel Radcliffe. So hopefully that's a compliment.
Yeah, absolutely. I would much rather be J.K. Rowling. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
I would much rather look like her because, she made a great deal of the success and the money behind, Harry Potter.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I'll take it because, he's very successful and I've been called worse things.
One of the titles of the book really caught me. And we're going to talk about your new book in a moment because it's awesome too. And I know there's a great story behind that. How to Get Rich Working for Free.
Yeah.
I haven't read the book yet. I'm excited to order it and get it into my mailbox and into my hands. What is that book about? It sounds fascinating.
That's the book that started it all. So
oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the one that started all, and there's a picture on the back cover that I cringe, and it's funny because I know a lot of folks listening in. You have a big idea, you either are launching something, want to launch it, or maybe you're even reinventing your business or yourself. And so I look at the back cover of that book, and I wish I could just permanently delete from the zeitgeist that picture, but nonetheless, it's there. And so again, the important thing is that you just got to get started. You got to put out some work. And so I put that book out because what I had noticed was I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I got the idea that I needed to go find my rich dad. But what I was starting to do at the time in my life was I started to go volunteer because I recognized volunteer at places that I saw to be more valuable than trying to get a paycheck.
Okay.
And so obviously at that first company, I volunteered to work for free with Dave, and that led actually to a job, a 6-figure job, for a pretty young guy. And it was because I determined, gosh, if I can just get myself in that circle of influence in this environment, I'm going to learn a lot more than I'm going to get paid. And so I did that. And then when I left that company, because I had this entrepreneurial bug inside of me, I said, okay, great, I need to go find a new pond. And so I basically volunteered at a mastermind, which is a a business networking group with highly
Yeah.
powerful folks. And I said, gosh, if I can get around them, one, I might be able to get some clients, but two, I'm going to learn a whole lot more in all these different industries. And so I came up with this idea of like, I was getting rich. And at the time I wasn't rich in terms of money financially, but I was rich in ideas. I was rich in relationships. And so what I determined was that you have to build a solid foundation. And when you do that, then yes, you can become rich financially. Yes, you can become rich in relationships and in life. And so that's what I wrote the book around. And I'm proud that I wrote that book and got started despite the picture on the back cover. But that really got me going.
Well, I have a question about that because you
Sure.
talked about getting into the right circles, finding that rich dad, finding that mentor. There's so many different spaces that could fit. And one thing that stands out about your journey is that you have constantly or continually surrounded yourself with others in collaboration. How can somebody else who's getting started, maybe they're young, maybe they're old, get into the right circles, get into the right relationships where they can gain this wisdom and knowledge and just have somebody or group of somebodies around them to walk along their journey?
Yeah, it's simple to me. It's marketing. And so the strategy is this. Number one is you've got to identify. So, if you're passionate about real estate, great. If you're passionate about health, great, or movies, then great. So identify where are these folks, influencers hanging out. And so what I like to do is I like to go old school with offline. So are there associations? Are there meetup groups in your city? Are there conferences that these people get together? And I want you to make a list of them. And then if there are groups online, such as Facebook groups or forums, make a list of them. And then you have to show up. So step number one is identify. Step two is show up. And so I like to show up with this idea of service, meaning that I figure out a way to build value for that group or for the leader of that group. And so, just as I did with the company, I said, hey, I'll come work for free. In exchange for just being around you. So I didn't pitch them like, hey, you need to pay me within 30 days. I just was able to have that mindset of, listen, I know if I can just show up and be a part of it, I will build value. Now, how you build value is you be part of the group. If you can do it online, you see what language they speak, and then you also analyze. So like if you join their email list and maybe they only email like once a month, then you can say, hey, listen, I see you're only sending an email once a month. I think you could build a stronger community if you sent 3 emails, and I can help you with that. And I'm not even going to charge you for that. And so the big thing is look for where you think you can add value to that group or to that person. And finally, the last thing I would add into this is ideally if you can get that face-to-face and show them your passion, or maybe do a Zoom call or Skype where they can see and read your energy through the video, like they can see your body language. Successful people are always looking for other people with that spark, with that motivation, especially if they're the right people. So if you can show that to them, odds are you're going to get that opportunity. And even if they say no, be persistent. Stick around and keep figuring out a way to add value.
Let's dive into your new book. It just came out June 13th. Again, the title is No B.S. Guide to Powerful Presentations, How to Sell Anything with Webinars, Online Media, Speeches, and Seminars. You co-wrote it with the world famous Dan Kennedy. He's written tons of books. I think is he the Dan Kennedy from the Moth podcast too?
No, not that one. But my joke is always this when someone reads the full title of the book. Usually we just abbreviate it No B.S. Guide to Powerful Presentations. But Dan, I'm sure, loves that you read the whole title because he's a world-class copywriter, and I always have an inside joke that copywriters get paid by their words. So they have absurdly long titles, and so It is a mouthful on that. But it was a fun project, and I'm excited to have written it with him because he was my mentor. He was the guy that showed me marketing. I basically started at that company, Foreclosures Daily, the real estate company, and I read his book. And it opened up my whole world that marketing is something that I can do and that I really resonate with. And so, 12 years later, 12 years later, 13 years later, I have a book with him. And so it's been quite a journey. And so I wanted to give back in that way and team up with him to do so.
We're going to dive into what a presentation is in a second. But first, you write this book about presentations, webinars, speeches, seminars, all of those things require a common thread, and that's public speaking. You had to overcome some fears about that on your own journey. Share about that.
Oh, this is a good one. This is the vulnerable story. So I went to Florida State University. Basically, I went to school, and in order to graduate, you had to take public speaking.
Yeah.
So there was just no way around it. So I remember enrolling for the class, and I show up, and there's 300 people in a room, and the teacher walks out and says, "Hey, you're giving 10 talks this semester. 3 are in front of the big group, and you're going to do 7 in breakouts." And I'm looking around as he's saying this, and I'm like, is no one else as afraid as I am in this moment? And I guess everyone just knew they had to take it anyway to graduate, so they were just going to fumble their way through it. So I said, no, I'll figure out something else. So I left. And I said to myself, I'm going to find like an online version of this, or I'm going to find a little, small section, with only 20 people. Because in college they have weird formats, and they give you some options.
Yeah.
And so I sign up again, and I notice I'm like, wait a minute, I'm going to the same building, and of course I end up in that same room. It's the same 300 people. It's the same pitch, and I'm like,
wow.
And so I'd like to say I conquered my fear then, but I actually bailed again. And so, Michael, I became so motivated to not take that class. I actually think I did more work than if I had just taken the class. And so I went around and I started talking to students and teachers' aides. And basically I found a legal loophole in the student handbook. And basically it said, if you had taken a class in high school, you could get out of it. Now, here's the thing. I actually had taken this class. I actually was public speaking. But the real reason why I was taking this class was called Model United Nations, and I was representing the United Kingdom. I was chasing a girl, and I think it's funny because I was public speaking, but I must have been so blinded by chasing the girl that I didn't realize it. Like I remember getting up in front of 100 people and arguing why the United Kingdom believed this certain point, and I think it's funny. And so, long story short, I got the teacher to write me a note. I actually didn't get him to write the note. I wrote it for him, and he blessed it and changed a few words so he it was his own.
Yeah.
And I got out of it. And so I had this fear of public speaking, and what I determined was I was forced to speak by my partner Dave one night, couldn't get out of it, told him the same story I just shared with you and everyone else, and I had to do it. And so I gave a presentation that night when I was forced to, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. People looked at me, not in admiration, but they were like hanging on to my words because I was talking about real estate stuff, and they just wanted to know, even though some of those folks were double and close to triple my age. And I said, wait a minute, all this fear, all this stuff in my head isn't real, and there's a real benefit. Like people are taking me more seriously than even one-on-one. And I said, I need to share this with others. And so that's been my passion and my dream, is just sharing, listen, it's not as bad as the stats say, like people would rather die than speak, but that it has true benefit to starting or even growing a business.
That's so good. Now, let's get back to that title because we want to make Dan really, really happy in this. The No B.S. Guide to Powerful Presentations. If we were to stop right there, we wouldn't get a full picture. Obviously, it says how to sell anything with webinars, online media, speeches, and seminars. When you're talking about presentations, I have a feeling that you're not necessarily talking about we're queuing up the PowerPoint, we're bringing out Keynote, we're standing in front of a group of people and walking them through a presentation. To me, from what I've seen and what I've read and what I've heard about you, presentation is a much bigger picture than that. Can you define what a presentation is in the context of this book?
Yeah, absolutely. It's my belief that everything in life is presentation. So an example that really resonates, that people really love, is Disney. And so if you think about Disney World or Disneyland, you pick. If you think about it, their presentation skills are mastery. Now you're saying, well, Dustin, wait a minute, there's no PowerPoint, right? Like I don't remember seeing a PowerPoint. And so I want folks to think about presentation in the greater context. If you want to get consistent results in life, you do things in a systematic way. And so this idea of presentation is everything from how they make you stand in line, as you're waiting to buy the ticket, all the way from taking the ferry and seeing the scenery and seeing the trees, building up your anticipation, then getting up to the security line, right? And going through it and then seeing Mickey right when you walk in with all the balloons. And so I know that's a big, big concept here. And so presentation is everything, right? Not just the actual words or the experience that you create, but it's the buildup before. And then also, too, as many people may have heard, it's the follow-up. The fortune is in the follow-up. And so whether you're selling something or launching something or raising money, you really want to give thought to what do you do before you deliver a message or talk about whatever it is that you talk about, and then what are you doing afterwards? And if you kind of stop for a second, that really is marketing. So what's the message that's happening before? What's the message happening after? And even during, that's marketing. Some people just call that speaking or presenting.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a follow-up question to that I think is really significant. We live in a digital age of people on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, and every other social network out there. And there is a sense of persona. If you're talking about presentation as what you put out there in the world, how you present yourself, how you present your brand, your company, the things like that, how do you fight the urge to create a persona and lose the authentic self in that?
Ooh, this is a good question. Some people don't fight the urge, or they, I guess, accept it and they just get after it. So there is the opportunity to do that. What I found, though, is if you're being somebody you're not, at the end of the day, you may not realize it on the first day or the next month or even a year. You may not realize it, but something is going to be off. And so, the thing I equate this to is sort of like lying. Like if you keep telling lies, you have to tell even bigger and bigger lies. So you have to continually be something that you're not. And so the easier thing to do is just be yourself. And you may not know who you are really, or you may not have dialed in your message. And so that's why doing, a lot of podcasts or doing a lot of practicing or a lot of speeches really helps identify it. So I tell you just to be who you are, and that there is an audience out there. So you don't have to be the flashy, slick guy or gal out there if that's not who you are. Just be who you are, and you will attract your audience out there, because there are so many different personality types and so many different audiences out there that you will get to where you need to be as you figure it out and make yourself more widely accepted.
That's really, really good. If somebody is trying to, they know who they are. They know the things that are valuable to them, the things that make them passionate. How can they take that message and really turn it into something that's monetizable?
Absolutely. This is a good question. And it ties into creating some sort of offer. That's how I get there. So I believe that everyone has some sort of passion inside that could monetize. The challenge is determining what that is, and then also, combating the self-limiting beliefs like who would pay me for that. And so I say this to really help people get clarity, is that you want to create an irresistible offer. Now, some people may say, well, Dustin, I don't even know what exists out there. And so number one is you want to do research. So if you have an inkling that you could sell a course on the underwater, the famous art of underwater basket weaving, right? Well, number one, let's go do some research. Let's go see if there's an association. Let's go see if there is a forum. Let's go see if someone is building an audience somewhere, like a web page or even offline, or is there a magazine that these folks even subscribe to? That's my old school kicking in.
Yeah.
And so you want to, number one, do research, and doing research will let you know what's going on in the marketplace. And then after you've done that, you want to put together some sort of offer. And I'm not going to say that you have a passion and just because you put an offer together, you're going to be able to instantly monetize. But if you don't create something and give it to the market, give it to your audience, and if you never do that, you'll never get feedback. And so this is all about taking action and creating some sort of irresistible offer for that marketplace and letting them tell you yay or nay or maybe. And then from there, you continually make and refine improvements.
Now, is this your irresistible offer architecture that you're talking about?
Yes, that's right. I created a 9-step I won't say a 9-step program, but a 9-step system, if you will, or there are 9 components. There we go. There's the words I'm looking for. There are the 9 components of irresistible offer architecture. So what I found is after working with, lots of clients from around the world and in many different niches, really obscure ones to ones that you would see on TV and, very well known. And so there are 9 elements there that really get people excited about a thing, right? So, if you look at a Nike shoe, some people get really excited by that. Some people could care less about, brand, right? Some people get more excited by a deal, like there are people out there, they love a deal, right? Extreme couponing, right? They got the best deal
Yeah.
possible, right? So that's a motivator. And so there are 9 elements out there that really drive people to get excited about a product or service. And I'll tell the biggest ones because I doubt that we have time for all 9, but the biggest ones I see out in the marketplace are really hot buttons. So, Michael, as an example, are you more of a visual, an auditory guy?
I am a little bit of both, actually.
Little bit of both. Do you
Yeah.
enjoy diagrams and checklists and flow charts? Is that your style?
Well, I do write a lot of checklists, and
Okay.
I do like those image stories.
Infographs.
Infographs.
Yeah. So you're a hybrid. So this will be an interesting example. So some people, as you know, are visual. They're predominantly visual. Like they're not going to read a book necessarily. They will read infographics. They will be on Instagram. They'll get information that way. Some people love going to live events. Like if they want to consume information or really learn something, they'll go sit in front of an instructor or go on a webinar. They'll create an experience or they'll digest information that way. And some are auditory and there's many others. And so here's the big thing I want to communicate. If you make an offer, and let's just say you are selling how-to information as an example, and the only thing that you did was make it video driven, well, you may come into contact with Michael and he say, well, I do like videos and I'm very visual, but I would really also like, audios because I drive a lot and have a commute and I can put stuff on my iPad or iPod. And so if you think about it, a lot of people actually end up selling to themselves. So they'll create their program or service for them. And so what I want to challenge people to do is what we call the hot button close. And so consider multiple people in your audience. There may be engineers, there may be video people, there may be people that don't actually want to read anything. They just want to pay big dollars and get on the phone with you and get a custom answer. And so when you make your offer, whatever it is, consider what are all the different hot buttons that would get someone to buy. And then the final thing is overcome their objections. So I always think worst case scenario when it comes to marketing and sales and starting a business. I want to pretend that people miss my entire podcast. People miss my entire presentation. They miss it. And at the very end, all they hear is my offer. Does my offer overcome objections? And so you have to think about that when you put together your irresistible offer. And the big ones are time and money. And so if you can include things that help your audience overcome those objections, you do yourself a big, big favor.
That's really, really good. You have a great quote on your website. It says, "A book is a dream that you hold in your hand." That fascinated me when I read it. Tell us about your process of taking an idea and making it a reality. How do you go through that process of going, I have the concept, I have the idea, and then you have a finished product, service, whatever that looks like at the end of that process?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I got to say this because I haven't been saying this out in the marketplace a lot. Number one is you got to do research. So I generally just skip over that because a lot of times I've done the research or I engage with my marketplace on a daily basis, whether that's Facebook or they come to live events or I do podcasts like this. And so I engage a lot, but I know that people that are just getting started, and also too, I know that even myself, veterans in the biz, in the game, we need reminders, right?
Yeah.
And so number one is you got to do research. So understand the marketplace, go read what they're reading, go see what questions they're answering. So that's first and foremost. From a tactical standpoint, I look to start with the end in mind. So let's say I want to sell a product or service. If I understand who the people are and how to communicate to them and what they want and their desires, then what I do is I start with the offer. So whether I'm writing a presentation or a webinar or maybe something, a communication, what's the offer? What's the action I want someone to take? And then I reverse engineer everything leading up to that. Because what happens is you can ask yourself the question, well, does this story or what I'm saying here, does it actually further the conversation to get someone to take an action? And if it doesn't, then I eliminate it. And so I like to keep a congruency throughout. And so the best way to do that is start with the end in mind and then work backwards to the beginning, then go out, deliver it a few times to your marketplace, send an email, put it on Twitter, put it on social, or do live events if you can do that, and then get the feedback and then polish it. And so that's how I will take an idea. That's how I'll launch a new product. And heck, that's how we launched a business, Speaking Empire, is we put together a seminar. We filled the whole event up, and then we made an offer at the end, and we got one person to buy a fairly large program. And we said, oh, well, people want this, even though we screwed it up a lot. We said, oh, someone wanted this. And so we were able to make money and have the market tell us, and then we refined a whole lot, and that's gotten us up to this point here today.
That's super cool. I love that concept. It's something that I talk to people all the time about, and but you don't hear many people talk about that strategy and idea creation, and I think it's a valuable tool.
Absolutely. You know, I am fortunate that I grew up in sort of the segment of the world where you can take an idea real quickly and test it. Whereas some of my friends that are in software, you know, they go out and they raise money and they spend long development cycles in creating a product, and then they take it to market and no one wants it. And I'm like, oh, like that feels like I just got the wind knocked out of me. And so for me, I like to pre-sell it. Now, what that does is, number one, it turns up the heat on me to actually deliver. And so I know in the world that some people need a deadline to get some stuff done, myself included. And then number two, a lot of times, Michael, when I say that, is like, oh gosh, Dustin's pre-selling something that doesn't even exist. Like, how can he do that? And I just position my weakness of not having the product into a strength for them.
Yeah.
So oftentimes I'll pre-sell something, and all the time I will let them know, listen, I've never launched this before. However, I'm doing something special. You guys are going to get a discount, and you're going to get all these extra things that people in the future aren't going to get, including access to me. And so I really position of like, hey, why don't you come on this journey with me, get a great deal, have some fun, and help me get to create the product, and you get access to me right now in this moment because I'm launching this. And so I just let people know what all the warts are, if you will, and they love that, and they either buy or not, and that's a way to do it, and not kill yourself trying to develop something and then figuring out it doesn't work.
You've, like I've mentioned before, written 8 books. You are a co-founder of a very successful business. You've helped other businesses. Over one of the numbers I heard was over 43 million in sales, listed as 35th on Inc. 500 list. By all outside appearances, you've been incredibly successful. What would you define success as?
Oh, this is a good one. Success. I believe success obviously is to each individual. So to me, success is the ability to keep learning and keep coming with a student mindset. And what I mean by that is, like, let's take health. I know we're talking a lot about business and speaking and all that, but let's take health. And so if you have that mindset of your health, and you have the student mindset of I'm always here to learn, I'm always here to learn new ideas and strategies, success can mean a lot of different things. It may mean a 6-pack abs to somebody. Other people may say, well, success in health is living till I'm 99, right? And so they're both right. And so they get to define that. The challenge I think a lot of people do is we get lazy, myself included, and we stop learning because the ego gets in the way. And so for me, success is always being open, willing to learn, and being in a position to where you can keep learning and educating. And that to me is success, because if you come with that, you're going to figure out what success means to you, and you're going to figure out like what really works for you personally.
There are a lot of people out there that are defining success by what they see in others. How can they take some steps to define their own success?
Oh, shut it all off. That's what comes to mind. That's a good question. These aren't the softball questions. That's good. I think that it does take some work, and me personally, I have to remember that as well. So I'm sort of giving this advice to myself. So I think, as long as at the end of the day you're happy and you're still pursuing what it is that you want to do, that is success. So if you're measuring it by obviously what you see on Instagram, or if you're measuring it by material things, I think you give yourself a big challenge ahead of you. And so one of the things that my mentors have shared with me is this idea of expectation. So if you expect certain things, that can create a trap. It can create, because if you don't get it, then your expectations are so high. It doesn't mean that you can't have goals and wish and want for something, but to really get back to what works for you and think about when you're 90-year-old, you're not going to remember the cars, you're going to remember the stories, you're going to remember like what you did to really serve in the world, like what was your contribution to the world. And so if you can keep that in mind in check every day, not saying it's easy, but if you can keep it in check, I think that will serve you big time.
That's really good. Let's dive into our rapid fire questions. These are questions I ask every guest on every episode. The first one's this: what's one step someone can take to start chasing their own dream or idea?
Burn the bridge. Is it like that where I just give like boom, 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 like burn the bridge? And do you want some elaboration on that?
Yeah, elaborate on it. That'd be great.
Well, a strategy for some people is to burn the bridge. So like if you want to go out there and start a business, if you want to go out there and, write that book, it's to burn whatever bridge is like keeping you safe. So, for some people that's like quit the job. For other people, it's like, well, if I'm going to write a book, I need a ghostwriter because I'm not like such a great writer. Like if that's what you're saying, well, then write that check for $15,000 or whatever the fee is for that, right? Because now it's like, okay, gosh, I'm going to do it. And so a lot of times I see people need to burn the bridge. Now, I'm a little bit more of a conservative guy. So I did burn a bridge and I just quit my job and did it. But I still am conscious that some people don't find that to be the strategy. So the thing that you got to do is you've got to take that first action then. So if you're not going to quit the job to go full time into starting your venture, then what's the one thing that's going to make a difference that you can work on right now that's going to help you in a big way?
You talk to a lot of people, you experience a lot of different things through the collaborations you have. What's one area in the world you want to see change?
I think one area for sure that I'm actually personally working on is just inward. So there's a lot of obviously challenges in the world, but from my own personal conviction, I had a lot of self-limiting belief about speaking in front of others. And so my goal is really to empower anyone out there that maybe doesn't have that confidence in themselves, that they're not good enough, that their message isn't strong enough. And so me personally, I'm on a mission to find those folks and tell them that everyone has a message inside and it's your obligation to share it with the world. Because heck, even if you change one person's life, you make someone's life better in the world, then you've done yourself you've done a contribution to humanity. And so that's what I'd like to personally see change in the world, belief in self.
What do you want your legacy to be?
I, at this point, just want to be able to be an amazing parent. I love business and I love making a difference, and I'm achieving that. Like if I stopped tomorrow, I would be good. And so now I'm real conscious of my kids, and I'm doing things wrong, quite honestly, as I'm figuring it out. I was an only child, and now I have two. I always wanted to have two kids because I'm an only child, so I'm figuring it out. So for me, my legacy is I just want to give my kids the opportunity to succeed and have a happy life, and success again. Not on the outward appearance like nice cars and all that, but just I want them to be happy in life and to be able to be learners and have fun.
Who or what inspires you?
That's a good one. Immediately what popped in my mind is my wife. And I know, some people say that a lot, or that's a blanket answer. And I've really come to appreciate her because she'll see things 3 years ahead of me, and I'm so like hard-headed and no, I'm going to do it this way. So she inspires me that you don't have to have like know-how or anything. You just have to have some intuition, and she has a great deal of that. So she inspires me. My kids inspire me as well, and then my team here at Speaking Empire. I really believe that business can be win-win-win all the way around, and that we can grow ourselves. So I get a lot of inspiration from the people around me.
What are you currently reading or watching?
This comes at a great time. I'm sure the social media comments on this are going to be great. So I actually just turned on Amazon Prime. We have the Hugh Hefner story. So it's a series that they did about Hugh Hefner. And I look at him because whether or not you like him or like what he stood for, he built an empire, like an amazing empire. And it has a lot to do with our world of speaking and writing, specifically writing, creating a platform. And so he did that. Controversial, of course. And so that's what is currently on the list. What am I currently reading? Everything. So I am a machine. The more that you put into your body, the more that will come out. And so I read Entrepreneur Newsletter. I read Inc. magazine. I read offline Dan Kennedy newsletters. And I'm currently working on books, but not making great progress with books because they're hard to actually completely finish. And so the shorter format has been great for me. I actually think I read more than a ton of books because I'm constantly consuming smaller bits.
That's really good. You have the books, you have your businesses. If somebody wanted to connect with you, whether it's to get your book or connect with your businesses, how can they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. There's two ways. The first way for the book is real easy. It's NoBSpresentations.com. They can get the book right there. So if you like Amazon or Barnes & Noble or whatever your choice is, like there's links all there. The reason why I send people there is there's resources too. So it's not just about the book. There's cool tools, powerful resources that come along with the book. So make sure to check that out at NoBSpresentations.com. And if you really enjoy a good show, we love putting on shows and events here at Speaking Empire, workshops, all sorts of cool stuff. So you can check out speakingempire.com if you're interested to launch or grow a business, or if you've got a presentation coming up, we'd love to hear from you and invite you to any of the events we do.
And every episode with this final question. What is one dream you are still wanting to fulfill in your own life?
One dream. I mean, what immediately pops to mind, I don't think it's the final answer, so I'm going to say it so I can get to the final answer. So
okay.
I want to, on my resume, it's totally an ego thing. So on my resume, I'd like to say that I have successfully sold a company. I don't know why. I think it's just an ego thing for me because I've done a lot of stuff in marketing and sales and stuff, and I've helped a lot of people. And so I think that's a total ego thing, which is usually not the right answer. One dream I'm still fulfilling. This is the best answer. Minimalism. So my wife, and I know this is a wrap up, but my wife calls me a little bit of a hoarder because I collect a lot of print marketing materials. I'm always, reading stuff, printing stuff out. And so I understand that clutters my life. So a dream I'm pursuing is simplicity, whether that's decluttering my life, whether that's just taking what I'm already doing and making it simpler. Like less is more is a big theme that I'm chasing after and implementing in my life. And so my big dream is simplicity, less is more, but be more powerful.
Dustin, it has been a lot of fun. Thanks for taking time to share your story.
Absolutely. I had a blast, and you definitely got me there with a couple questions I didn't come prepared with, but I think that makes for one heck of an interview.
Well, thanks for taking time out. It's been so much fun. Once again, I want to thank today's guest, Dustin Mathews, for taking time out to share his story. He is the co-founder of Speaking Empire and co-author of the No B.S. Guide to Powerful Presentations. As always, you can swing on over to jumblethink.com or in the episode notes to find links to how you can connect up with Dustin. On Monday, we have another incredible guest. His name is Gavin Zuklinski. It is going to be a lot of fun talking about scheduling and his company, Acuity Scheduling. Make sure to check out that episode this Monday. Don't forget to swing on over to Facebook and Instagram. Check out the Jumblethink profiles. Follow us there, like us there. And more importantly, check out One Tip Friday, where we give you a tip on how you can chase your big idea and dream and create the world you want to live in. Also, make sure to swing on over to anchor.fm and check out our new podcast, our micro podcast. Super excited about that. Can't wait to hear what you think about it. Let us know what you think about both the Jumblethink podcast and the micro podcast over at Anchor FM. As we wrap up another incredible episode, I want to leave you with one tip from Jonathan Ive. He is the creative genius behind so many of Apple's amazing products. He says, the best ideas start with conversations. I want to encourage you, just like Dustin said, everyone has a message. Everyone has an idea to share. Go share those ideas. Share them with family members, friends. Drop us a message and get those ideas shared. Start talking about them. Start exploring them and go create the world you want to live in. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, have a great day.
Les mères de famille, les enfants, peuvent également prendre un moment revitalisant dans quelques mois. Lorsque vous aurez bien saisi la technique et que vous serez maître de votre corps, vous pourrez vous décontracter même en travaillant.